So, quick disclaimer for the sake of the recording. I'm not a medical professional. Nothing I say is intended as health advice. All opinions are my own. Nothing is affiliated with YouTube, any of Google's associated properties. And I'm a law-abiding citizen. Nothing I say is a mission of guilt. That being said, if you like this stream or you're just interested in seeing what's been going on for the last couple of years, definitely become a member. It's only 99 cents, and there's over 100 hours of members' recordings available. We'll see if anyone shows up here. It didn't give very much notice for this stream, and Sunday's not our usual day, but we'll see what happens. That being said, let's see, what did we want to talk about today? Well, we wanted to get some ideas. We don't know where we're going with this whole streaming mission, but we definitely do want to try and continue. It looks like we got our first couple of people showing up. Welcome to our first 2 people. By the way, if you would like to join our chat and you're just finding this on the short feed or whatever, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you can join the conversation. And if you want to make sure you see future streams, make sure that you turn on notifications with the little bell. Anyways, what's up, you guys? What do you want to talk about? Anyone got any ideas? What are we supposed to do with this thing? No one feels like chatting today? Sam, come on, dude. Stop that. Not while I'm streaming, buddy. Well, you guys, we're going to have some chatting going on. Otherwise, it's going to be a very short stream. Make it sound like we got a nice leaf blower in our background, which is always fun stuff. Let me see if I can lower the audio on that. 1 second. All right. Got some more people showing up. Hopefully this will end up being good. Oscar R., first chatter, thank you for joining the conversation. Oscar R. says, how's life been these past few years? And I would say it's been amazing. It's been some interesting times, for sure. Much different than any other 2 years of my entire life. But it has been very enlightening. I'm a completely different person, I guess, than I was 2 years ago. It's actually really super interesting. And good morning, Jennifer, by the way. But it's a really super interesting thing, and maybe we'll just start here. So I wish there was like a way I could like share certain images on here so that I could like saved. Oh shit, I didn't realize I can do that. That's so cool. Okay. There's a little highlight button, so when I say something that I want to turn into a short, I can just tap that. I was wondering where those little highlights came from. I guess that must be something that I've done by accident. Anyways, so really super interesting thing if anyone's into psychology. You know the 16personalities.com test that everyone takes for the Myers-Briggs, which, by the way, is a really good test. I think that it's well done. So for the last, 10 years, I've been basically totally unchanged in personality. Every time I would take the test periodically just to see, because usually I'd retake it when I recommend it to someone else. Basically always the same. It's actually on my Instagram, my old one. I don't know if I posted my new one. Maybe I did, but actually maybe I posted them both on Instagram. I'm not sure. But since my spiritual growth over the last year and a half. It's actually been a tremendous change in my personality, even according to Myers-Briggs. So while my level of introversion has not changed at all, um, my intuition has slightly increased, which was already a dominant aspect of my personality. As far as prospecting, that is also unchanged. It remains at 100% my most dominant characteristic. But historically, I've always been an INTP. I've been always more of a thinker than a feeler, and by a lot, it was always 100% thinking versus feeling. But since my spiritual awakening, it has leveled out at basically exactly 50-50 or so, which has just slightly pushed me into INFP, which after doing some research is actually a change that shouldn't be possible, because according to psychology or whatever, because of the as much as those sound like two close things, they're actually not, because they have different roots of the way they think. So it's quite the jump. And aside from that, my assertiveness has also increased to 100%. So it's kind of an interesting phenomenon, in my opinion, because when something moves from 0% to exactly 50%, I don't feel that it represents any loss of, for example, thinking is what I'm talking about. Like, I don't think that has changed for me. It's just that the feeling has increased. And I think that the 50-50 aspect of that really represents kind of a concept that's familiar in spirituality, because they say it's about kind of waking up the other side of your brain, the half that you're not using. So it was interesting to me, anyways. So that's what's been going on the last couple of years, just a total remapping of my personality. But it looks like we lost most of our people here. I don't know if this stream is going to stick today. Maybe it's not happening, but let me know how the connection is. Is the audio okay, and is it lagging, or let me know. I am preparing for a journey right now. I'm going to escape from LA. It's definitely not my favorite place in the world, though I have managed to find peace just about anywhere and under extraordinary circumstances, but not to say that I don't take responsibility for my own sacrifices, nor do I have any regrets about them. But I do notice that my focus tends to be completely different when I'm in almost any other location other than LA. I don't know if that's a remnant of my old life talking, but it seems like I am just kind of more locked in on my meditation when I'm other places. I don't know if maybe it's possibly just that there's so many humans here that there's a lot of input coming from a lot of places. Maybe it's just the I've considered the possibility that it could be simply that big cities like this have a lot more cell phone towers and people with phones in general walking around, and probably let's just level it off and say a more electromagnetic radiation. to interfere with whatever. So I'm looking forward to a change of scenery. I'm happy that the connection is good. I was originally wanting to come on here and stream because I was thinking that I wanted to at least make a stab at fixing my algorithm here on YouTube, since there's been some other issues that have recently resolved on here and re-inspired my interest. But I'm not going to lose hope after one stream, but this doesn't seem to be bolstering my desired outcome. But that's okay. Sometimes you gotta start somewhere, right? So we're restarting, I guess, where we're at. Does anyone have any questions or ideas for topic they'd like to discuss? I'm really super duper open. I'm also really interested in hearing what, not just as a topic today or a question today, but just what kind of content everybody might be interested in going forward. I've not made any affirmative decisions, but I have been considering the possibility of circling back around to some of my former endeavors, though I would be doing so in a more conscious light. So that's not something that, again, I've made a decision about, but I would love to discuss it with people and see what other people think about it. And then also, I was just wondering kind of, what does everyone, I'm curious of how other people, of course I have my own opinions, but, part of me is wondering if perhaps the whole spiritual topic I have some type of I don't know, I have some kind of hold up, some kind of I guess you would say self-consciousness about the idea of trying to monetize this type of work. Not even work, but this type of knowledge, I should say. And when I see other people doing that, or I don't know, it always kind of makes me think, I'm able to now see where people have gotten lost, even people that are spiritually inclined, and even people that are selling themselves or promoting themselves as some type of spiritual teachers or leaders or energy workers or whatever. I feel that what I see is that a lot of people that are incomplete, that have not walked the full circle, that have not closed the circle, promoting themselves as spiritual guides and stuff. And I wonder sometimes I wonder why that is. Is it simply that they're just learning things from other people and repeating whatever it is that they paid for, or, read in a book or whatever? Or is it that they genuinely started down the path and then stopped making progress because they started talking too much, because they started letting greed take over? And I definitely don't want to fall into that trap myself, and I also too don't want to basically push my insight onto the unwilling. It's kind of almost like the bait and switch. I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing to use the bait and switch to deliver spiritual insight to people who are mainly just looking for adult content, or if that's a worthy move in my bag of tricks to try to bring more light into the world. And I would love to hear your guys' opinion on that. I mean, is that an honorable way to bait and switch? Is that something the world needs? Is that something that people who are super subscribed to adult content and possibly even addicted to it? Considering some of my main messages have been very counterintuitive to that, like semen retention and ascetic living. I don't know. I would love your guys' opinions. I'm trying to more or less go with the flow, than beat down any doors. I'm not trying to intrude upon people. Antonio's Al-Safadi, welcome. And we got a question, though I don't know if it's one I can necessarily answer. Guacamole Blasbo says, what do I think about quantitative investment funds? Now, you're the second person, or possibly the same person, that's asked me twice about quantitative investment funds, and I actually don't know what that is. Though I do have a certain amount of knowledge based upon investing, and that's also something that, I mean, if that's more what everyone's into, I can always happily, I have no problem at all monetizing the many hours of that I've spent trading and learning things about the mechanics of options and futures. But means that while I am really good at creating a super high action casino out of the financial markets, I have myself managed to blow up more accounts than definitely anyone I personally know. I don't know if anyone else has ever blown more huge accounts than me, nor do I know anyone that's ever built more huge accounts than me from a very small starting point. But that being said, I have not managed to make a long-term success there. I have managed to move a lot of money around. But it has historically ended up in someone else's hands eventually. So I don't know if I should, if I'm necessarily qualified to talk, though I do understand the mechanics. I can definitely teach people about option spreads and futures and leverage. But again, it's all about the audience. What does the audience want? And I mean, truthfully, I have far less moral inquiry into the rightness or wrongness of teaching people options mechanics than I do speaking my spiritual views, my spiritual insights, and things like that, because the spiritual path is one that's about sacrifice. And it's hard to tell someone to sacrifice when there's no actual guarantee that it will yield any kind of positive results. You have to basically be willing to, you know, jump without knowing where you're going. You know what I'm saying? Even my, I've made some attempts to explain how that journey can go, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it will go, because ultimately, we are all working with our own set of life experiences, and some of my life experiences are not recreatable for other people. I was in prison for 4 years, and, I was in the adult industry for over a decade, and I, have lived a very, I guess, perhaps the word is bohemian lifestyle. I've rejected, common concepts of society for quite a large portion of my life, basically all of it. I was basically born a Taoist, so without even knowing what that was until very recently. So it's hard for me to encourage people to try to walk that path when that path means basically deconstructing their entire life and personality. So I'm super interested. But I also, if you tell me what quantitative investment funds are, I can give you an opinion based upon what you tell me. I mean, if you're talking about algorithmic trading, I think it's super interesting, but and it's something that if I knew how to code, perhaps I would give it a shot at, because I do like systematic trading, but I personally prefer to do it manually, because my approach to trading is more about manipulating other people who are using algorithmic trading or code-based trading, because in my opinion, the most algorithms, well, are never perfect, and often they overreact because there's so many of them. And so those overreactions result in fluctuations in implied volatility, which, in my humble opinion, is one of the more interesting ways to approach the market, because, fear and greed are mean reverting. Volatility, eventually always goes down. So, it's, I'm kind of more into the collection of premium than, anything else. But, let's see. Someone says, pray for North Macedonia. 59 people died in a fire at a nightclub tonight. Oh my gosh, that is horrible. How does that even happen? 59 people in a fire at a nightclub? That's crazy. I'm so sorry to hear that. P. Detachamorthy says, your movie's super. Are you married or not? I am not married. I've never been married. I am going to be 40 years old in November, and I have never been married. I've also not even had sex in nearly a year. I've been celibate, and yeah, I've just been taking a break from female contact. Not to say that I love women any less, but it's just that I have come to realize that what I possess in that realm is too strong for any type of casual relationship. And I'm also, spiritually opposed to forming any type of commitment to another human. You know, of a romantic nature. I mean, I don't feel that, and whether or not there's any other type of commitments I'm willing to make, like a spiritual commitment or anything else, like as a teacher, I don't really know. I don't really think I've achieved a level of mastery yet that would necessarily make that wise decision at this moment, but I am still looking to achieve that mastery, not necessarily for that reason, but simply for the sake of continuing my own journey and growth spiritually. But I have been considering making some pretty dramatic life changes coming up, simply because I do feel that this chapter of my life, not to say the spiritual side, but more or less some other aspects of that, have already yielded their fruit, so to speak. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Any other questions before I give up on this stream? We do have some people coming in and out, but this is definitely not my, normal slot. It was a short notice stream, and as I mentioned previously, this is kind of an attempt to fix my algorithm, because my algorithm is not super good right now. Guacamole Blaspo, thank you for continuing the conversation. Guacamole says, thoughts on the application of psychedelics in medicine and therapy? That's tough. Well, I'm not really, honestly, super huge fan of the idea in the in the realm of therapy. As far as medicine, I do think that it could be healing in some cases, but it's a very slippery slope. I feel that psychedelics are possibly something. Hey, it's okay. Psychedelics are possibly something that can be useful to an individual that is extremely well grounded and well developed, mentally and even spiritually. But like, for example, a shaman, you know what I mean? When a shaman does a psychedelic, he knows what he's doing. He prepares. He knows how to fast. He knows how to purify afterwards. They know how to avoid becoming addicted and so on and so forth. They've already, woken up their brain and their nervous system, and, got their energy moving properly. But the problem is that a lot of people, like when somebody's seeking therapy or medicine, usually indicates that there's a problem which they're trying to fix. And when there's a problem already, that speaks of, an incomplete journey, you know. And there's something that can happen, which is something that happened to me, and I know this very deeply from experience, though it didn't have anything to do with psychedelics. But there's something called a Kundalini awakening, and for some people here are familiar with that concept, but a lot of people have never heard of it. And so Kundalini energy Kundalini is a concept in yoga and Buddhism and things. But what it's really about is the there's a energy, they say, it resides in the sacrum, right? And if that raises up your spine, and if it is able to pierce all the way into your brain, it basically triggers a total, like a physical change within your body, your chemistry, and your brain, right? And your nervous system in general. And what that essentially is, another way of putting it, is basically a spinal gasm. It's like having an orgasm in your spine. Any super big nerves, and let's face it, your biggest is your vagus nerve and your spinal cord, can reach a level of excitement that's akin to the orgasm that we all know and love. However, if this happens in your spine, it's a much, much more intense experience, and it will change your entire body. If it goes into your brain, it will absolutely start a process which cannot be reversed. It could be halted, possibly with medication, but the thing is that when you start undergoing this change, if you manage to achieve that, it takes a while for your brain and your body in general to adapt to the influx of chemicals such as DMT and things, which are totally within your body's ability to produce, and it will indeed start producing it. So you will go through a stage where you do feel like you're losing your mind, and in all real essence, you kind of are. And you have to make it through that, you know what I'm saying, which, is something you really need to set your life up to be able to process. It's not something that's recommendable for people, for example, with a lot of like family obligations, or who don't have any type of passive income, and people that have to go to work a lot, things like that. Your normal life will kind of unravel if you have a Kundalini awakening, until you finish it, and then all of a sudden you will, of course, be dramatically improved mentally, in the sense that you will, for the first time in your life, probably actually experience peace eventually, and a lasting peace that can't be disrupted. And this is the concept of enlightenment. But sometimes certain psychedelics, like, for example, ayahuasca and things like that people talk about a lot, maybe even mushrooms, can sometimes trigger that to happen. And so, somebody that already has mental issues and are thinking they're going to go and cure themselves with some ayahuasca trip or this and the other, like, maybe they will, but the thing is, before it cures you, it's going to make it way more aggravated. They might go through a little phase where they think that they had the ego death, but when the ego comes back, it can shake somebody. And when they're going through that adaptation process where their brain starts producing these new chemicals and things like that, or I shouldn't say the brain, because a lot of them are produced in the other organs as well, but the thing is that it can manifest in a way that seems like almost like schizophrenia or something, right? And in some cases, you really are actually talking to, entities that are, not physical in this realm. And what many people, especially someone who is already seeking healing or therapy, do when this happens, and keep in mind, this can also happen just randomly without having any kind of psychedelics or anything. This could also just even happen from sex. You could have a real actual regular orgasm that's so intense that it triggers your spine, and then your spine triggers your brain, and boom, next thing you know, your Kundalini awakening happened, and you think you're fucking going crazy because somebody just, just hit it too good one time, But the thing is that what a lot of people happen, especially if they're already in the mindset of trying to take medicine or get therapy, is that they end up going to a psychiatrist, which in my opinion is one of the most evil professions on the planet, and they get medication, like chemical medication, and that doesn't heal anything. It just ends up halting them. It stops their growth. It stops their process. And instead of healing them from being, instead of them passing through this phase where their brain is readapting to their new chemistry and eventually finding, liberation, they just basically start taking whatever antidepressants or some bullshit like that, and that locks them in to that phase, and they stop progressing. And so they think that they need the medication, because every time they stop taking it, they start going crazy again, because they're never passed through that phase. But and keep in mind, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional any time. Nothing I say is intended as health advice. Check with a doctor before you take any kind of advice of my own. But yeah, I am completely and totally against psychiatrists, and yeah, they're just, in my opinion, right there with some of the other more evil aspects of society, like plastic surgeons and taxi drivers. Sorry, taxi drivers. And Anna, welcome. Sorry, I was talking. I didn't see you popped in here. Thank you for restarting your membership. Oh yeah, there's new membership options. Those are going to change soon. Not that I'm going to take anything away from them, but I will be adding some perks to some of the more expensive options. Yeah, so you guys don't forget to become a member. There's 100 fucking hours of me talking about spiritual stuff on there, as well as other interesting concepts like Tantra and whatnot. But all of that is available simply, at this moment at least, for the lower membership of 99 cents. So definitely, if you're interested in the realm of spirituality, there is a tremendous amount of content there that I created while I was personally going through my own Kundalini awakening. Though I will say it was after I had passed the scary part where you think you're going crazy. So no worries there. It's all quality stuff. In fact, the reason why I put it behind the paywall is simply because it's too powerful of stuff. It's pretty much, a lot of it is stuff that borderlines on the realm of the esoteric. And I've come to realize later on, especially for the reasons I just aforementioned, that some stuff is hidden for a reason. Because, if you just watch one video about the effects of Kundalini awakening, and it doesn't mention any of the negative possibilities that happen on that path, Somebody might just decide, hey, yo, this is a great idea to do. And they do something, and suddenly they wake it up, and they've started a process that can't be turned around, and it can literally take 3 to 12 years for this to complete. So, essentially, yeah, stuff's hidden for a reason. But if you understand the risks associated, I do invite you to become a member and try to watch all the videos in chronological order before making any decisions about what you want to do in your own life. Anna says, no more rotisserie chicken options for Sam. Oh, that's true. That's a good point. I should have a rotisserie chicken option for Sam. Yeah, it's a good idea. Well, if anyone does want to buy Sam a rotisserie chicken, there's also, you can do it via rotisserie, via rotisserie. Do it, if can't talk. You can do it via super like or super thanks as well, simply by writing rotisserie chicken for Sam in there. But yeah, maybe I'll have a rotisserie chicken subscription for Sam. That's a good idea. So that Sam can, he can eat a whole chicken every day if we can get 30 subscriptions. Sam likes that idea. It was like, hell yeah. Yeah, and the rotisserie chicken subscription will of course come with a shout out for the rotisserie chicken supporters, Sam's supporters. That being said, let me ask you, we only got 9 people here, but I am curious how many people found me from my adult book and how many people just randomly wandered upon my stream through other means, though I do know the answers in at least a couple of the cases here. There's definitely a couple, there's some people that I've been missing from the streams. I hope I didn't lose some of my favorite people. Sorry. So what do you guys want to talk about? You want to book a hike with Sam? That's a good idea. You found me during Bible studies. Okay, that's cool. That's good. I hope you were, yeah. It's always nice to have a good, vigorous Bible study, I'm sure. Never mind. I'm sorry, gotta keep this YouTube. Yeah, Revelations and stuff, right? The two-tone dragon. Anyways, sorry guys, I got off track there for a second. My old personality just kind of rose up and hijacked my ego and let it use my mouth for a second. But see, Raphael says, what do I think about antinatalism, saying it's immoral to have kids? Is that's the meaning of it? Is that it's immoral to have kids? I'm going to assume that you're telling me the meaning of it, and that's the meaning of it. I think it really, honestly, like, the problem is with, it really comes down to the reason why you have kids. If you're just operating on like a sense of ego and, or a sense of, that you're, have some type of, issues with your own mortality, and that you feel that you're going to live forward through your bloodline, then I think it's all the wrong reasons. The thing about having children and also, there's almost nothing, nothing in the world that you could possibly, I'm not going to say that it's immoral, but I will say that it's important to understand that of all things, any fucking thing you can possibly do on this planet, anything you can say, any action you can do, I mean, like, even if you did some of the most terrible things, but there's nothing, and not to say that having kids is a terrible thing, but there is, like, listen to me, there's nothing that creates more karma than procreation. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you are then not just and it's a karma that you have absolutely no control over where it's going to go, because it goes beyond your kids. It goes through your grandkids and your great grandkids and your great great grandkids and your great 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 grandkids. You know what I'm saying? And when you have a child, you have to understand the fact that you are responsible for everything that kid will ever do karmatically. You know what I'm saying? Not only that kid, but all of your future ancestors that come after you. Everyone that is derived because only of you, you will have to experience that karma. And in a lot of cases, that karma will be you being reborn into your own ancestral line. Do you know what I'm saying? So that you, as your higher self, can see the impact of what that decision did. So not saying that it's immoral, but it's a karmatic thing. You know what I'm saying? You are responsible for whatever happens after that. And though your physical body may expire, your soul will not. And in the, in order for you to understand the lesson that goes along with that, or to even understand basically the question that you just asked me, you will continue reincarnating into your bloodline, right? And if it really depends what you're, if reincarnation sounds amazing to you and you're like, I love Earth so much that I want to come here over and over and over again, and I'm cool with that, then you know what I'm saying? That's one good way to do it. But if you're actually seeking liberation, you're actually seeking to expel your karma, then it may not be a good idea. You know what I'm saying? Just depending. I mean, it could end up being amazing. Maybe you, whatever, but like continue, consider also too, even on like another aspect, I think that it's really important to be honest with yourself about your genetics and whether or not they should be passed on. Not every single person has, you know, genetic attributes that should pass on. If you have like some serious diseases and things that are a dominant gene, then perhaps it can be an moral implication there of creating future generations that will be sick and will be spreading a genetically dominant disease into the population. So I guess that's what I think about it. Of course, that's just my own opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. I am no authority on that because I don't have kids. And that's that. So I hope that answers your question. Kia has a good question. What triggered your awakening? Well, let me show you what triggered my awakening. I was doing that for about, I don't know, an hour or two while I was driving to Vegas, and I was driving through the desert, and I was just bored and quit drinking coffee and quit smoking weed and was super duper sober and fasting and doing all kinds of stuff. But I was doing it all for my health. But something about that sound just resonated with me in a very intense way from the very first time that I heard it. And I watched a video about how to do it properly from Sadhguru. And so I was practicing it on the way, and I was kind of experimenting with different tones, and I was trying to notice the different places that I could feel the vibrations in my head. And I was literally doing that for, I don't know, an hour or two. And all of a sudden, I started hearing a noise, and it got louder and louder. And I realized it was like harps, like an angel harps, like, but thousands of harps eventually. Like it was like a whole, like 3 orchestras of harps. Sam, not when I'm telling a story. And that's enough. And then it's like my whole car started vibrating, and then I started glowing. All of a sudden I started giving off a light, like I lit up like a light bulb, like my whole car was lit up. It was like gold glitter everywhere, and this gold light came into the back of my head, and I could see it like swirling, like I was looking down a tunnel of light, and the angels are playing the music, and all of a sudden I got the download about the whole history of humanity and the universe in general, and angels started talking to me, and then I fell asleep. I woke up 10 years younger, feeling amazing, with no fear of death, because I understood that I had existed before this planet even existed, and that I've been here the entire time since it started, and that this is finally my moment where I get to eventually exit whenever I'm done here. And it brought me a tremendous amount of peace and insight. And then it just kept moving from there. And if you become a member and want to watch all my past streams, I've told every single story about that and every other experience along the way, including the one that came after that, which was very important, and included a experience of unconditional love, where I got to see through every person's eyes on the planet simultaneously, feel their feelings, their emotions, see their memories. And it's a pretty cool story. But there's many, many experiences that happened, and all my past streams basically outline all those in real time as they were happening, or shortly thereafter. Sometimes when I have a big breakthrough in my meditations, I take a while to contemplate it before and integrate it before I talked about it. But more or less, it was a real-time version of that. Noi! Good to see you. I'm so happy you made it. But yeah, I hope that answers your question, Kia. RL says, I saw you live stream randomly, but recognized you. That's cool. I like that. I'm into that. I'm surprised you recognized me. I mean, I don't really... Honestly, I can like hold my portrait of what I used to look like next to my head now, and like to somebody that's like actively in front of me, and like they will deny that it's me sometimes. They're like, that's not you. I'm like, that's me, dude. That's me with my eyebrows plucked and my hair shaved and my beard trimmed, and that's me conforming to every you know, pitfall of society that one could imagine. You know, it's interesting. Like, it never ceases to amaze me how accepting the population has become of neutering themselves. But it is what it is, I suppose. Though I have been thinking about shaving these little like hairs off my cheek. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that like it's worth it? Like, should I just like let these go and just like trim it up and kind of at least, you know, partially conform? Would that make a difference? Would you think I was prettier if I didn't have these little scraggles on the side? What do you think, you guys? It's a real question. I'm not being facetious. Kia says, anti-natalism is how you say it. Oh, thank you, Kia. Sorry. Raphael says, what's the funniest misinformation you read about your height? Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. There's somebody, I mean, there was somebody that was hating on me so bad. They like made Wikipedias. They were like changing my wiki. My wiki got changed so many times because somebody kept doing that. People kept changing it back that they like took down my English wiki because it was like too highly contested because like the haters kept like saying I was like 5'7" or something like that. Like, he's 5'7" and from smoking cigarettes all the time can never achieve an erection. I'm like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? No, you guys, I really am 6'2", and I've never exaggerated neither my height nor my endowment. Though I know that that's a very common thing within the industry and that some guys do that, and I can confirm that most other actors, aside from like the Brazzers guys, are actually kind of short, a lot of them, and it's kind of an illusion that they're, you know, packing, because it's just like the smaller your body is, the bigger that looks on camera. It's like just a way that camera exaggerates things. But I really am 6'2", 180 centimeters, and I don't smoke cigarettes, never have. And yeah, there's been some pretty hateful people out there, but you know, that's what happens. And you know, I made my own mistake when I decided to talk about politics at one point on Twitter, and then all of a sudden that, you know, I have a lot of gay fans and people that are very, very far left, and if you don't perfectly align with everything that they have been indoctrinated to believe, then some of them get very, very spiteful and mean about it. So that has been an issue, but I haven't taken it too far to heart. It just honestly is mostly shocking to me that somebody has gone so far out of their way to try to promote misinformation about my body metrics. It's so funny. But yeah, I mean, I guess that was probably one of the funniest things. But like, I don't know, it's probably, they reposted it on like other wiki sites after that too, so it's even it's actually been like a lot of energy that somebody put into distorting what I actually look like. Kia says, Om is meant to be the sound of the universe or something, right? Well, they say it's the sound of creation and all that, but you know, what I was told by an ascended master that talked to me during a really deep meditation was that it's the name of my soul, like my true name. So, and I think that that's probably, I don't know, you know, possibly the true for the whole population, though I'm not 100% sure, based upon the fact that there's obviously at some point a you know, a masculine and feminine oversoul that we are all attached to, you know. So it's hard to really say how that exactly works, because you know, my spiritual path has been about self-reflection, and you know, I haven't asked any questions nor really desired any answers regarding mankind as a whole. I've been more or less focused on uncovering my own origin, and so most of my insights have came to me in a way that was about knowing myself. But, you know, that being that it's a very common thing, and that many people have found results, and this is a sound that's been known many thousands of years at least, and it's actually the root of many different prayers and things, you know, Amen, Amin, you know, etc., etc. It's a thing. And, you know, speaking of Amin, for example, like the E, it's kind of like that is like the feminine version, basically. But it's not like not to say that that's not necessarily a soft thing. It's a very aggressive thing, and it's or should I say not aggressive, but forceful energy. And it's like, for example, in yoga or Hinduism, there's a mantra that's and that's the Kali mantra, which is a much less gentle way of awakening, according to what I've read. That's something that I've used for some very specific reasons and stuff, and actually had some success with it as well, but it's not something that I recommend to most people. But yes, the Om is very, 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 very powerful, and it's known as the sound of creation. Raphael says, how would the past version of Bruce, let's say 10 years ago, initially react if he got shown a screenshot of your current appearance in this stream? That's an interesting question. You know what? The thing is that I don't actually remember Bruce 10 years ago, because in 2016 or 2017, which was 8 or 9 years ago, I was struck by lightning. When I say I was struck by lightning, I actually mean that I threw a lightning bolt, but being that one end of it was connected to my body, let's just say it wasn't a great experience. And I actually encountered a dramatic situation behind that, where I basically have not total, but partial amnesia. And there's quite a lot of my life that I don't actually remember. In fact, it's quite interesting to me when I watch my old videos and stuff, because there's so many, probably the majority of which I have absolutely no recollection of. And I probably wouldn't have even realized that I had amnesia after being struck by lightning, because, well, let's just say that you don't feel very good when you're initially struck by lightning. Like, I was pretty much like a zombie for about 2 weeks afterwards. And when you start coming back to normal again, or at least when I started coming back to normal again, I realized that a lot of, that I didn't remember a lot of my videos, like doing them or whatever, right? And I never had that experience before, or at least I don't remember ever being like, oh, hey, I don't remember any of this. Like, I kind of thought I remembered everything. And to be honest, if I hadn't had so much of my life on camera, and especially experiences which were very memorable, that had been forgotten, I probably wouldn't have even noticed that I had lost the memories, because that's the really weird thing about amnesia, is you don't realize that anything's missing. It's just gone. Your brain kind of fills the gaps or whatever, you know what I mean? With nothing. And so, not really sure how I would react. The thing is that when somebody is completely disconnected, which I don't know if I was completely disconnected, but I mean, like, I definitely wasn't connected in the same way, or open in the same way. You can't really, like, they really can't hear you when you talk about spirituality. Not that that has anything to do with my appearance, but it also, the beings that I knew nothing about it or anything like that, it's hard. I fell into the category that most people fall into, or at least by assumption I fell into that category, that I wouldn't have probably seen it as a spiritual thing. You know what I'm saying? And most people don't. Most people see you, especially if you're in a big city or you're not in like a certain spiritual setting, and they don't really realize. Like, and a lot of people who have this practice of being natural, they wear like turbans or some type of head covering and things like that. And nobody really realizes what's going on under there. You know what I'm saying? And I do understand, why they do that, because it's sometimes a lot, it makes it more apparent, let people understand that the turban or whatever is a spiritual symbol. They don't understand that the dreadlocks and the beard is a spiritual thing, you know what I'm saying? And as far as the unibrow goes, I mean, I think we have all been completely and totally, indoctrinated to think that that's an ultra weird thing, though the amount of men in particular, and many women as well, that do pluck the hairs between their eyebrows would indicate that it is actually a normal phenomenon, and that it's a societal construct, that we're supposed to remove that. And it's something that has no doubt, been programmed into us. So I'm not really sure how I would react from 10 years ago. I may not be positive, but the other thing is, though, if you flip that around and you ask myself today what I thought of my appearance 10 years ago or my personality 10 years ago, I would probably have a lower opinion of that from my present self than I would of my present self from that angle. And the reason is because I've never been a super judgmental person, but I do now, not to say that I look down upon people because of their willingness to bend to society, but I do see it as a manifestation of weakness mentally. Like, I'm saying, like, nobody wants to wake up and shave every day. Nobody wants to, fucking trim and pluck and fucking do a bunch of stuff to their body if they could be totally natural. You know what I'm saying? What's natural is to be natural. Like, what's natural is to not have to do much or nothing, and so I would view myself 10 years ago from this point as basically a kind of a serf of some sort. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, in my opinion, it's kind of like a slave-like mentality from now versus then. I wouldn't have really known enough about this to have an opinion. But this knows enough about that to form an opinion. Not to say that it's a negative, necessarily like a, super negative thing. It's not like I would, whatever. I would just feel bad for myself of the past because I would see and know what I was giving up just for the sake of fitting in with society. So I hope that answers your question. Even if it wasn't exactly what you were asking. Easy BCLS says, been studying Jesus a lot lately. What are your thoughts on concepts of forgiveness? On concepts of forgiveness. Well, forgiveness is something that you do for yourself. Forgiveness really has nothing to do with the other person. Most other people don't actually care or want your forgiveness unless they're actively trying to manipulate you. But harboring malice or negative emotions towards somebody because of something that happened or something that they did is something that eats you from the inside and really shuts you down spiritually. So forgiveness is something that you really have to do if you want to be free, you want to be liberated, if you want to have a positive outlook and a positive mindset. Now, that being said, there's another concept that comes from Jesus and other prophets and things of loving your enemies. Now, that concept, which is not exactly the exact same thing as forgiveness, is extremely fucking powerful. Way more powerful than just simple forgiveness. Simple forgiveness is something that you do to liberate yourself from a negative outlook, from a negative thing, from something that is outside your control, from something that is in the past and that cannot be changed. Okay, but there is truth to say forgive, but don't forget, because most likely a snake in the grass is going to continue to be a snake in the grass. Just because you forgave it for biting you the first time doesn't mean it was not most likely going to bite you again. That being said, if you can learn to love your enemies, and when I say enemies, not to say that you should have enemies like people that you actually have ill will for, but to say that other people who have ill will for you, for other people that hate you for any reason, be it something that you did in the past, or something that you are, or something that you embody, or something they just don't like about you, maybe they just don't like the way you look, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But to the ability to not even successfully love them, but to want to love them, is the meditation that brought me one of my most powerful and life-changing experiences of experiencing unconditional love and being able to see through everybody's eyes and actually change the way I see everything, to understand deeply something that most people will never understand, and that's the actual scope of perception of how much every single person's life and everything seems completely different from every person based upon their own perception, which is indeed by design, because that's why we're all here. We are all little fractalated particles of God. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why we don't remember that or know all that most of the time is because that would defeat the purpose. So, it's not a negative thing, the scope of perception. It's literally what it's all about. It's the reason why we don't have any purpose here other than existing and doing whatever the fuck we really want, and assuming that whatever we want and whatever we do is not harming other people's experiences, because ultimately the net total is going to be your karma. So you know, you have to balance your own experience with the experience that you create for other people. And this is why a lot of like really spiritual people take a hermetic approach, you know, or ascetic approach, or even a vow of silence, because so much of your karma comes from words, right? But, you know, some of it also comes from action. Some of it also comes from other things. But it's like, you know, by retracting yourself from other people, then you only have to worry about your own experience tying back to your own karma. You know what I'm saying? Versus, you know, if you're constantly interacting with a lot of people, it sometimes your experience could be less important than other people's experience. You know what I'm saying? If you make 3 people miserable to make yourself happy, then you have a net negative. Maybe you made yourself miserable to make 3 people happy, you have a net positive. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like ultimately we're all one. We're all having an experience for God. Do you know what I'm saying? So you have to balance your experience with other people's experiences. And, you know, forgiveness is a way of improving your experience, the experience that God is having through you. So, and when I say God, I'm just using it as like a word, you know. It's a highly misconstrued word. It's not the best word, but it is, or should I say not the most accurate word, but it's the most using specifically in this situation, because you mentioned Jesus. But I mean, my own personal opinion on religion and past religious figures is that while they may offer some wisdom and guidance that still holds true today, I do think that it's a mistake in all cases to trust and put your belief in the experience of another person rather than your own person. And it's even bigger mistake to do it if that person is no longer around to confirm or deny the things that were written about that person's experience. You know what I'm saying? So while that person might be amazing and had provided a ton of wisdom, if that person existed thousands of years ago, and all we have is writings that were based upon someone else's experience that they had with that, you're already like 3 parts removed. And that's not even if you're counting all the people that have translated that person's stuff, all the people that have, you know, filtered it and decided what was okay and what was not. Because the truth is like, if they had to remove anything that was ever said, then none of it is actually complete, because it's the body of work. Even myself, I've even seen, you know, through my experiences, my viewpoints have changed slightly or become more complete and whatever, developed more and more as I go. But the thing is that right from the gate, you know, you see the light, you hear the angels, you want to fucking climb to the top of the mountain and scream and shout, hey, yo, there's something that you guys need to know. But later on, you come to have more experiences and you start seeing your past lives, your past karmas, and understanding more about what your actions have created and led to over the course of multiple lifetimes. And I'll tell you right now, if Jesus comes back today, tomorrow, whatever, and sees what has been done because of everything that he ever said, he will probably be horrified. So, you know, just, yeah, hope that answers your question. Angelica, oh, let them go. Are you talking about the hairs? Let them go? Noise says there's also multiple versions about your date of birth also. I'm not sure what that was. Sometimes you guys, I get lost and I can't remember what I said earlier, so I don't always know exactly what's up. Kia retracted a message. Raphael says, what is going to be the next big things you're going to drop from my life? I don't know. Honestly, like one of my biggest goals, I don't know if it'll be the next thing, but I mean, honestly, one of the main things I want to drop from my life is this fucking phone right here. Like, you know, ultimately my goal is to detach completely from the phone and eventually even from the internet altogether. I don't want technology to be part of my life. Now, that is like the final boss, in my opinion. I don't actually think that that's a realistic thing, definitely not in the near future. But I do feel that this device, which we're all communicating on right now, is one of the most evil things that exists on this planet, if indeed evil does exist. Now, it could end up being that this evolves eventually into something tremendously good, and then what I just said will eventually become untrue. But as it exists today, in this exact moment, the purest form of evil I see is that everybody is carrying around their fucking invisible chains and shackles and brainwashing themselves and shutting themselves down spiritually and fucking giving themselves fucking radiation and everything else, all kinds of, there's a million negative things that come out of this device right here. And that is my main goal, as far as dropping things from my life. So, you know, that will obviously happen in stages, because, you know, it's very hard, you know, for someone like myself, to break away from this, because it's, you know, my source of income. But first I will drop the phone, and then I will eventually, you know, I will move to just computer-based messaging, and then I will eventually lose technology altogether, is probably what will happen. I don't know, but it's, again, I try not to make too many plans for the future. I try to stay in the moment, and since at this exact moment I'm using the device, talking on the device, I'm exposing myself to the radiation from the device, you know, I can't say that I realistically see that happening anytime soon. Him Lin from Germany. I like how like everyone just left when I said that. They're like what? No telephone? It's my shackle? Like, I'm out of here. How dare you attack my device? So, you know, it's the truth. It's like, it's a funny thing. It's like, you know, at some point we don't just, it's not only that we don't want, a lot of people don't want to escape, it's that they literally will defend their slaver. You know what I mean? They will defend the one cracking the whip. You know, it's very Stockholm syndrome. Zahara, you made it. Good to see you. Kia says, is there any particular religion you follow, or do you follow your own path? I 100% follow my own path. I will never, and I do mean this absolutely. I say I don't plan for the future, but I will tell you right now, I will never, like, take a religion. I think that religion is ultimately wrong. No matter how much truth and no matter how much wisdom and no matter how right it is about many things, it's wrong, because you need to have your own experience with God. If you want to understand God, if you want to know God, you got to have your own experience. If you try to follow somebody else's experience, especially somebody else who your life can never replicate, even that's myself included, like, you're not going to go to prison for 4 years and then become a porn star and fucking everything else. You know what I mean? In the same way, you're not going to have Jesus's life. You know? Like, it's been 2,000 years. Nobody can have the same experiences as Jesus. Nobody can have the same experiences as any of these past figures. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to have your own experience. Now, if I was going to pick a religion, the one that most closely resembles my own belief, my own path, and the things that have delivered me to this point, I would be a Taoist, because my path has always been about emptying the cup. You know what I mean? Like, that's my way. And what I do believe is that to describe the ultimate, the absolute, the creator, to give it, you know, to try and define it with words when we know that it's unspeakable and beyond comprehension, And the more that you know about it, the more beyond comprehension that you realize that it is. It's almost kind of like an insult. It's not a conscious insult. It's not something that you meant to do. But as soon as you try to put something into words, you limit it. As soon as you try to say that this is what I believe, you've created a limitation. The truer words, the most holy thing, the most religious thing that you can know is that you know nothing. Ultimately, all of this seeking, all this learning, all this truth that you're after, no matter how much truth that you get, I will tell you from experience that it eventually leads you to the words, I don't know. And that's the truest thing that you will ever say. I don't know. I don't need to know. But yet, I love. You know. And that will take you farther than any religion. Just emptying the cup. The thing, and I've said this a million times and I'll say it again. And this is my own take on it. Okay? Nature abhors a vacuum. And everything is God. Every single thing. Every particle of everything. The earth, the sky, the sun, the moons. Like, it's all God. You know what I'm saying? Me, you, Sam, your car, whatever. Even every particle of everything is God. Okay? And it's hard to understand that. But when everything is God, when the air that you breathe is God, and you know this, okay, then you empty the cup, because it's the space inside that is valuable. It's the space inside that is the most pure. It's nothing is everything. Do you know what I'm saying? By creating emptiness, by removing your personality, by removing as much about yourself as possible, you create a vacuum, you create a space, you empty the cup. And what comes into the cup? Is the cup empty just because you poured out the tea? No, the cup is full of air. What is air? Air is God. So if you create a space inside yourself, if you empty yourself of personality, of ego, you become closer to God, because God is what fills the space that you created. And so that is the path. You know what I'm saying? And that's a very Taoist path, but doesn't mean that I'm going to, you know, say I'm a Taoist. You know what I'm saying? Because I walked that path without ever knowing what Taoism was. I only found Taoism afterwards because I became interested in religion, because I first thought I was going crazy. Then I started, you know, and also I'll give a big shout out to yoga and Hinduism, because the Om is what taught me that, you know, I learned the Om from Sadhguru, who is a Shiavite. And I myself have remembered the earth as Shakti, as my Shakti. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know where I derive my power from, and that's, you know, a concept that's in yoga and Hinduism. And I don't know if that's something that I've remembered from a past life. Maybe I was yogi in a past life, but I did have a profound experience where I merged into the earth and realized everything was part of God, and then eventually remembered Shakti without even ever having heard that word. And so I'm always able to trace all these concepts back to some religion or another. But ultimately, what brought me to that point was knowing that I knew nothing. I mean, I manifested a blunt from thin air one day, and then I was like, this is a simulation. Like, there's no way that this is all real. In that moment, my fucking everything unraveled for me. I became totally open to everything. I was not saying that I didn't know anything. I knew that I knew nothing. And one day I started chanting the Om, and, you know, it was just off we go from there. So, you know, ultimately, I don't think that anyone should trust anyone else's, you know, use anyone else's experience as a basis of their belief. Use it as motivation to have your own experience, to know that many people, both dead and alive, have had that experience, and that you can have it too if you're willing to sacrifice for it. But to say, I believe because so-and-so said, because this book says, is inherently wrong. And it will mislead you. And it's actually, in my opinion, part of the net of society that is meant to catch you as you're awakening. It's just like the psychiatrist that puts you on drugs when they think you're going crazy, and now you get locked into being schizophrenic because your brain and your chemistry never gets to fucking stabilize without fucking bullshit that you're taking. But religion is another net like that, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, something happened. I want to know more, and this and the other, and all of a sudden your mind is filling up with all these different things, all these different concepts that's from somebody else's experience. So is your cup getting emptied? No. Your cup is being filled. It's being filled with religion. Now there's no space for God to come inside you because you're busy thinking about what some book told you or what somebody else, some other experience. You know what I'm saying? What you need, if you really, want help, and there's nothing wrong with this, is that you need a guru. Guru in yoga or Hinduism, whatever, I guess it would be Sanskrit or whatever, means dispeller of darkness. You know what I'm saying? It's somebody that's already walked the path, that knows what's coming, that can not try to send you on the same path that they went on, but somebody that can recognize where you are on your own path. And while they may not be able to hold your hand and guide you the whole way, they can give you a little push in the right direction and say, go that way. You know what I mean? But that's something that needs to come from a living person. You know what I'm saying? Or if not from a living person, then by, cleansing your chakras and things like that, and, tapping into the fabric of the universe, you can begin to communicate with entities that are non-physical, and sometimes, and oftentimes, those are the absolute best teachers. You know what I'm saying? That's the best guru you can have, is the one that you can't touch. You know what I'm saying? But that's not going to be there for everybody. So it's just, you can also seek out somebody who has attained enlightenment and ask them to guide you, because they will know, after having achieved that you can't walk the same path that they walked. They know that you are walking your own path, but they can see when you're walking down a dead-end path, and they can turn you around and say, no, go that way. And so that is, to me, the more fruitful way of going about it. You know what I'm saying? You're very welcome, ECBCLS. And Kia, thank you. Angelica, oh yes, the hairs, yeah. Okay, they're gone. I'm gonna fucking zap them right off there. Just a one time, just to see if it makes a difference, and then we'll let it grow back. They say, if we want to follow in Jesus's footsteps, like, for example, there's so many people that say they follow in Jesus's footsteps, and yet they're shaving their face and cutting their hair. You know what I'm saying? But, drinking wine, eating grapes. But yet, whatever. So, people that's the other thing about religion, is like, they like to pick and choose part of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, like forgiveness and blah, 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 and this and the other, but we're still drinking wine. We're still marring the edges of our beard, eating grapes and raisins, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with grapes and raisins. I didn't get that. Like, in my own opinion, is like, I manifested a blunt, fell from the sky, right? Not even from the sky, just mid-level in my house. Not even that the sky was open, like there was a roof, right? You know how I did that? I wanted it. I wanted it so fucking bad. Everybody in that room wanted it, and we were happy when it arrived. Well, guess what? When Jesus turned water into wine, no one trusts and believes that it was because he wanted some wine really, 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 really bad, and probably so did everyone else that was in the room with him, right? Same kind of experience. Well, nowadays we call that an alcoholic. But back then it was normal. You know what I mean? But Jesus knew that there was something wrong, because he he said, I have to stop drinking so bad that not only did I turn water into wine, but now I will never touch wine, nor grapes, nor raisins. Nor fucking raisins. You know that you realize you yourself have an only not touch a substance, but touch in. You know what I'm saying? But is Jesus a lot, it can't tell you that. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't say that anywhere in the Bible. No one's going to say, hey, yo, Jesus had a drinking problem. He conquered it and it was a big part of his growth. You know what I'm saying? But his addiction allowed him to do basically magic. You know what I'm saying? Which is something like the Buddhists call Udaya. I might be, saying that wrong, but that's the way I view Udaya. You know what I'm saying? It's not the best way, but it's a way. You know what I'm saying? It's working with what you got. It's turning weakness into strength. You know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of, there's kind of that. Now, I'm off the religion thing. I don't want to keep harping on people's religions because, people get sensitive about that kind of stuff. And I hope and assume that a lot of people will, if they get far enough down the path, or whatever starts them down the path, that maybe they will have the same realizations that I've had towards that end, and maybe they will seek their own experience and look inward. But ultimately, I'm not here to attack anyone's belief systems or whatever brings them peace. But I've never known anyone to have great success with that. So that's just my own opinion. Raphael says, should we forgive people for the stuff they pulled politically and medically during the pandemic period? The shot and whatever. Forgive but don't forget. And understand the concept of the human body. I don't mean your human body. I mean the fact that we are all one. We are all layers of the same being, right? And sometimes the body gets sick. You know what I'm saying? Especially if it's not spiritually aligned. You know what I mean? Because the truth is, if you are perfectly aligned, you will never get sick. But we are all one. And if you get sick, sometimes you have to remove the affected part. And I'll just leave it at that. So while we should forgive, we should definitely not forget. And we should definitely consider the reality that we've allowed people who do not have humanity's best interest into mind, and that are not operating on the level of unconditional love, to have too much power. And while I don't actually believe you can vote your way out of tyranny, I do believe that as a society, we should be aware of not only our personal karma, but the karma of our species. Because, the concept of heaven and hell, in my opinion, and in my own experiences, and, coming to understand some of the things that I've come to understand, ties into karma and reincarnation. You know what I'm saying? Like, in a lot of religions, they don't believe in reincarnation, but I personally know it to be true. And the thing is that you reincarnate here, and you reincarnate into the world that you helped create. In the same way that I said, like earlier, like if you have children, there's a good chance you will reincarnate into your own bloodline so that you can see and experience your own karma. And so that's the same here on the earth. You know what I'm saying? And, as a species, if we want to go into heaven, we have to create heaven here on earth. But if we don't, and we let the society keep going in the direction that it's been going, that's a downward spiral. I think we can all admit. Then when we reincarnate here, it becomes more difficult to get free, to find liberation, because you're being born into a more difficult situation. It's the same thing that happens in your own life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're engaging in violence and war, or maybe you're, you know, attacking one group of people, whatever, blah, blah, blah. There's a good chance that you will be, or extremely high chance you're going to be reborn into that group of people and be experiencing the same violence that you did on them, but from the other side. This is why certain places, for example, you'll realize have a much higher population of children than adults, because the adults that were killed have now reincarnated somewhere else to experience the opposite side, and the people who are killing those people are reincarnating as children to those people. This is a concept to think. So we live in what we create. We create heaven or we create hell. Even in our own single lifetime, we create heaven or hell. But we also do that over the course of multiple lifetimes. And we do that also as a species. Like, everything is layers. When they say you were created in God's image, they don't just mean physically. They mean personality-wise. They mean like purpose-wise. Like, everything that you come to learn and do here is also happening on higher levels and higher tiers, and going, you know what I'm saying? Like, you as an individual got to look inward. You're all about removing layers from yourself and finding the core, which is God. But, you know, God's also doing that. Do you know what I'm saying? But on a much greater level, because there's multiple gods that create the creator. Do you know what I'm saying? All the experiences of all the gods, which are having multiple experiences of multiple lifetimes, and they're, you know, remembering every single one of those things side by side, while we are limited to our own single experience until the point when we find liberation and break the cycle of karma, and then suddenly we get access to some of that while we're still alive in some cases. But that's the same thing that's happening on every level up. All the gods are doing that. And all the gods are also feeding all that information up to the creator itself, which is outside of time, which is outside of the universe. You know what I'm saying? Now, what, if anything, indeed existed prior to that and created that as well? I don't know that. I remember the moment that was started. The moment when that asked the question, where am I? You know, and then, you know, the suffering derived from that question led to the other question of what if. And what if led to the creation of everything that's ever existed. And that's what you are. You are the question, what if? Ultimately, if you want to boil yourself down to the simplest thing, what are you? You are what if. What if you? What if you did whatever the fuck that you do? Whatever the fuck you do with your life, what if? That's the question that you're answering. And you can't not answer it. You don't even have to want to. You can deny what I'm saying right now wholeheartedly and fully. You can say, Bruce, you're a fucking idiot. Can't stand you. And guess what? I'm still right, because you're answering the question. What if you couldn't stand Bruce Venture and the things that he said? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're answering the question no matter what. You can't avoid it. You know what I'm saying? Does that mean that you can't create karma? No. You're going to create karma one way or the other until you're free of it, but you'll still do your job. The job that God gave you, which is to answer the question, what if? What if you didn't remember anything? You came back and you were fucking born into this life with those parents and this place in the world and fucking watched YouTube porn star talking about God. You know what I'm saying? What if? What if you resonated with what I was saying and you actually listened to me and fucking made a big difference in your life? Like, what if? You know what I mean? That's the question. That's you. The question that was God is, where am I? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like, why, like, all of a sudden I'm aware. You know what I'm saying? Everything is conscious. That's what most people don't realize. Even a rock is conscious, right? But it's not aware. It's the awareness that matters. God existed consciously before it was aware of it. It's just that at that moment that you become aware of your own consciousness, you say, what's going on? Like, where am I? This is the same thing that you kind of go through in a spiritual awakening. All of a sudden you wake up and you're like, fuck, where am I? You're just another layer of God having the same experience in a different location. You know what I'm saying? It's where am I? What if? Well, what if I'm here? You know what I'm saying? What you don't realize is that there's a bazillion other instances of what if going on, you know, at the same time. And those are all things happening too. So you're answering questions, whether you like it or not. And that's the what if. And it says, thank you. I transitioned from hopeful agnostic to actually believing again. I'm so happy. Let's see. Raphael says, I think so. Unconditional love is the best way to free yourself. Exactly. Unconditional love. Unconditional love. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the thing is that, you know, sometimes, like, for example, we use the body experience. Like, sometimes we get sick. Sometimes, you know, someone has a tumor or something. It's like, should you remove the tumor? Maybe. Yeah, you probably should. Well, what's the best way to do it? Do you want to, like, literally, like, cut into yourself and use, like, a forceful, violent method? Or maybe do we want to, like, just, like, cut off the blood flow to that tumor? You know what I'm saying? Maybe we found the vessels that are feeding it, and we cauterize those little vessels instead of, you know, using violence and cutting in. Well, if you stop feeding something, it dies. It goes away. It's been removed. You can heal after that. So it doesn't necessarily mean that violence is the answer in any case. It means that we stop feeding it. We stop feeding the thing that's making us sick. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't mean that we hold malice against it or we stop loving ourselves, because that's part of us. It means that we stop feeding the thing that's making us sick. We stop giving it attention. You know what I'm saying? We decide enough is enough. And so that's how you're able to operate on multiple levels without becoming, because it's the eternal quandary is, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you defeat something without becoming it? Do you know what I'm saying? And the answer is you stop giving it attention. Let's see. John Everson Corville, like, will you ever go back to the industry? I miss seeing your two. I haven't decided on that yet. Possibly. I mean, you know, it's one of those things, like, I personally, I have to, you know, that question really ties back into when do I fully admit to myself the word that's so hard to use because it's such a fucking amazing word that, like, means so much, and some people are really whatever. Not that anyone else's opinions matters. My own opinion mattered, but I'm the same as other people. I'm like, you know, every experience that I've had has been so many multitudes greater than the last, and the, you know, even the more recent ones, like even several back, are really truly beyond words. And I've tried to describe some of the parts in past streams that I could describe, but the realizations require your brain to work in a way that happens without words. You know what I'm saying? Most of us have the ego doing all of our thinking for us. Even if we're thinking ourselves, it's the ego is sitting there fucking narrating it. Well, this is like, you know, the difference of, like, typing on your phone with your two thumbs or using all 10 fingers on a keyboard. You know what I'm saying? You're the movement of information inside your brain doesn't happen as fast as it can when somebody's fucking narrating the whole thing and trying to explain it all. You have to fucking remove this ego voice, or learn to control and use this ego voice when it's necessary and when it's useful. And the rest of the time, you want to be trying to experience pure thought. And when you're experiencing pure thought, you can take in a much bigger picture and a much more acute understanding of that which is beyond words, right? But if you I don't remember why I was even saying this, but yeah, it's just, it's so, oh yeah, now I remember. So it's, the thing is like the word enlightenment. The word I'm talking about is enlightenment. Like, if I can at some point admit to myself that I am enlightened and that there's no turning back on that, then I don't see any issue with me partaking in some worldly affairs, like making money or having sex, things like that. You know, because I have to admit to myself that I'm no longer subject to the pitfalls that come with all those things. But until I can fully admit that to myself, I have to question the possibility that I could be doing what I was talking about earlier in the stream, that I see as a pitfall of many people who are selling spiritual guidance and things like that, that they appear to me to have shut themselves down because they're partaking in a sin. And when I say a sin, I don't mean in a biblical way. I mean like in the sense of something that shuts down your spirituality, which honestly, one of the most, I don't know if it's in the Bible or whatever, but like religiously, the things that, like, where, if you, one way that you could boil down a very simple concept of trying to awaken spiritually is the 7 deadly sins and the 7 godly virtues. Any one of those 7 deadly sins will shut you down. You know what I'm saying? And the 7 godly virtues do the opposite of that. So you know, when we're talking about like my past work, you know, greed is a factor. Oh, my fingernail's dirty. Yeah, it is what it is. And lust is a factor. You know what I'm saying? Now, of the things that I'm free from, or still guilty of, or still partaking, I have a pretty clear image of all that. Greed and lust is not a weak point of mine. Like, for me, currently, I would say my weakest point is sloth, because I don't want to fucking do anything except for meditate and be in nature, because I'm so deeply in love with my Shakti, which is the earth itself. And I want to immerse myself into that all times. And the way that I do that is by going out into nature and meditating. You know what I mean? So in some way, I'm actually am guilty of lust, because I'm lusting for the earth itself. I'm lusting for the feminine spirit, which is Shakti, which is what, you know, invigorates my existence. You know, so, you know, there's it's a tightrope. You know what I'm saying? There's sins and then there's virtues. At the same token, humility is a virtue. You know what I mean? So for me to say, you know, even little things like, hey, I'm going to shave my little hairs off my cheeks, it's not really a humility thing. You know, that's kind of like a prideful thing. It's another sin. So when I, you know, self-assess and I say, okay, where am I falling short? Where am I excelling? I think about these things. And that is due to the fact that I've become aware of these things. Because again, it's not consciousness. We can all be self-conscious about our appearance and blah, 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 blah. We do that naturally. It's not hard. But to be aware of your self-consciousness is a completely different phenomenon. A totally different beast. You know what I'm saying? So it's really learning the difference between awareness and consciousness is a huge aspect to spiritual growth, to being able to give yourself an honest analysis, to also realize, like, how much can I endure? How much can I take? Like, for me, I've proven to myself that I can be very humble. I was very egoic and flashy and prideful and whatever in the past. You know, I'm making it a point of doing the opposite. Not just for myself, but also for the people following this path, and to show them that it's possible. Like, if I can fucking sacrifice, you know, it's like I was like averaging like 100 women a year or something for a decade. You know what I mean? And it's not a brag. I'm just saying is like, that's something that a lot of men would aspire to. I was, making, I'm not going to say exactly how much, but it was what most people consider a really nice income for a long time. I optionally exited that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's partially for myself, mainly for myself, but the reason why I'm broadcasting that, I could have done this all privately. I didn't have to fucking come on here with my hair halfway dreaded and, whatever, my unibrow and stuff. I could have just kept it to myself. But I chose to share that with everyone, not because it's something that everyone wants to look at or anything and fucking whatever, like they normally, what they subscribe to my old stuff for, but because I wanted to lead by example and show people that it's possible. And eventually, not to say that this is what I'm planning, but if indeed in the future I decide to return to my work or whatever, and to return to, basics in life, like trying to make money or whatever, then that will also show another part of the equation, that you are more effective once you reach spiritual enlightenment, once you reach spiritual liberation, once you release yourself from fear, that you can really do whatever you want after that. Can you do whatever you want before that? No. You're going to be making a plan. You're going to be hoping that your plan goes. But just like I said, just like trying to describe God is beyond words, and it's totally futile, and it's creating a limitation for that which is limitless, at least in your own opinion or your own viewpoint. The same thing goes with making a plan for yourself. Because even if your plan goes right, say you had this whole business plan and you make fucking millions of dollars. Well, what if you didn't make that plan? How do you know you wouldn't have made billions of dollars doing something else that just happened upon your plate at the moment, and you were totally locked in to that moment and putting all of your essence into everything that you were ever doing without fear? You created a limitation for yourself. Not only that, but you created fear for yourself because you were fearful until it worked that it wouldn't happen. Then once it did happen, you were fearful that something could have been better. You know what I'm saying? Then you were thinking about the past of, oh, maybe if I would have did it this way. But if you just acted in this moment at every moment, you don't know where you're going, but you at least know that it's going to be the best place possible. Because you put yourself into it fully, and because manifestation happens when you're in the moment. Fabric of reality starts unfolding around you in the moment when you're in the moment. But if you're fucking thinking about something in the past, thinking about something in the future, guess what? You're not manifesting the future or the past. Past is gone. Future may never come. You got to manifest now. In now. You got to be now. Look around you. This is where you're really at. You're not on the internet. You're not sitting with Bruce Venture. You are watching me on your phone in the location where you're at. You know what I'm saying? That's where you really are. You know what I mean? Like, if you're locked in totally and you're listening to what I'm saying right now, it's having an effect on you. It's doing something. But if you're watching me, blah, 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 I might as well just be doing that. Because you could be fucking thinking about tomorrow or the past or a video you watched or whatever, and my words mean nothing. I'm just blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? You're not in the moment. But if you're in the moment, you're learning something. If you're paying attention fully, if you're locked in, you're in the moment. And this is the best thing that I could possibly do for a moment, is distract you enough to be in the moment, to be focused on what I'm saying, to be thinking about God. You know what I'm saying? And how much that word doesn't live up to the reality of it. You know what I mean? And that's what Tantra is. You know, it's a weave. You know what I'm saying? There's a million different types of Tantra. It's not just sex, but sex is one of those things. Because you can be, sex is one of those things where you can truly be in the moment, and it's not hard. But even then, a lot of people struggle. Like, how many people have you, why do you subscribe to my work instead of other stuff? You know what I'm saying? Is it just because, you know, you like the two-tone thing? Or is it that you've seen a certain level of passion that you didn't see other places? Well, what's missing? What are those other people doing that I'm doing differently? You know what I'm saying? Was I just gifted with something? No, I'm locked in. Like, my way of doing what I do is to focus completely and totally on the woman that's in front of me, no matter who that woman is. I'm not thinking about past experiences. I'm not thinking about weird shit to try to stop myself from, you know, doing the thing too soon. I'm not doing any of that shit. I'm locked in. Even if I'm trying to hold back and not get too excited, you know how I do that? I don't think about some nasty shit like people try to tell you that you should do to fucking, you know, tone yourself down. That's a good way to lose it altogether. What I do is Tantra. I start weaving. I didn't always know what that word was, but what I do is I'm paying attention to the camera with my peripherals. I'm locked into the woman and her reactions and everything. Totally, yeah. I'm locked into my own feelings and everything. Like, I'm paying attention to the shadows, making sure everything's well lit. I'm micromanaging a million different things at once, but it's all things that are happening right now. And that's why one of the other reasons why I probably have had all this stuff, because I have made a living out of being present in the moment and learning the feelings within my own body and controlling my own body. My body, which is part of God. Do you know what I'm saying? So I hope that answers your question, John Everin. Kia says, I think a lot of Christians, Abrahamic religions know that the concept of I am that I am said by, I've never heard that, so I really can't comment on that. But Mika, so good to see you. I haven't seen you in so long. Tia says, hey, Bruce, miss you. Well, it's good to see you here. And, oh, wait, we actually made it to the bottom of the chat. My previous message was in relation to you saying, we are all what if. Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Kia, for explaining that, because I was confused. But we are all what if. You are what you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, trust and believe. Like, when I looked through every person's eyes simultaneously and I got to have that little moment of understanding what it's like to be 100% immersed and one with my creator, you know, with everything, with everybody, to be mankind, not just a man, but mankind itself. I learned that everybody is loved. Even the fucking bastards of the world are loved. And loved not just a little bit. I mean, intensely loved. This entire planet is loved like you couldn't even imagine without experiencing it. But you can experience it. And that should be your focus. And the way that you do that is not necessarily by successful, but by trying to love everybody, even the people that hate you. Beg to love them. And if you do it hard enough and truthful enough and you mean it enough, that which you are will show you the truth. They will show you how, and you will get to experience that. And it will be one of the most profound experiences of your entire life. That being said, I love you all unconditionally. And I hope to see you for the next stream, which I'm hoping will be tomorrow. If anyone would like to use this evening to ponder some questions for our next stream, I will be totally happy if to continue this conversation, and we'll see where this streaming thing goes. That being said, I hope you all have a good morning, good afternoon, and good night, depending on where you are in the world. Until next time.